Welcome, guys, to another video. I just want to say that this is not fantasy. This is the real world we're living in right now, right? People like to live in this fantasy. I know a lot of people thinking this, that, when in reality is not what it seemed to be. This is reality. It's not a movie. They like to live in this false reality that is a movie that's what the people don't understand, right? They don't know how to distinguish from reality from fictions, right? It's just a movie, and they think what happened in the movie is real life. It's art imitating life. That's what it is. And they think that what they see in movies is actual reality. Like, for instance, like what's going on in women right now. They think that there's a Prince Charming for every person. That every girl deserves a 6 feet tall guys, right? Six figure. Like, these are only exist in fantasies. This is not real life. This is not idea. This is not realistic here, right? Because it's not realistic because majority of men out there is below 6 feet. Not all men are 6 feet tall. The average man is 5'7", 5'6", around that height, and they don't understand that. Like, what are the chances of you bagging? I'm not saying they're never gonna bag a guy who makes 6 figure, but guys don't make that much. The majority of guys don't make that much money. Majority of guys are not in the 1%. Majority of the guys out there are not 6 feet tall, and they like to live in this fantasy that movie, TV show, and drama promote on TV that they should deserve this, deserve that. When in reality, it's not like that. They have to be constantly reminded to them that this is not a fantasy. It's real life. You have to be realistic here. You gotta find a man right now, or else you'll be single forever. Right? Or else you'll be 40 and still be in the dating market. You have to make compromise here. They're not willing to compromise. Women live in this fantasy world that they don't understand. Right? I'm not saying all women. There are women out there who's in the right state of mind. Right? Who know this stuff. But there are so many of them out there who live in this false reality that they deserve this, that, and that. They think everything is a Hollywood ending. Everything is a fairy tale ending. Live happily ever after. They've been conflated, not conflated. They've been brainwashed by the media, by the movie that they watch, by the soap opera that they watch all the time. They need to learn how to distinguish that false reality from a movie into reality. They don't understand that. And when a guy tried to correct them, they're saying the guy's been abusive, verbally abusive. You know, I know some guys out there. I'm not saying all guys are perfect. I understand that guys out there are damaged as well. I understand that, right? And it shouldn't be like that. As men, you should do better. You shouldn't be terrible at being a husband. I mean, there's nobody's perfect. I understand that. Nobody's perfect. But they should understand that nobody's perfect as well. They think guys are 100% perfect. No. Nobody's 100% perfect. Not even men, not even me. I'm not 100% perfect. I have my flaws. Right? But you have to make compromise, work it out. They're not willing to work it out. That's why we have all these no-fault divorces, right? I understand some guys need to be divorced because some guys are dirtbag as well. Right? Some guys need help. They need therapy. Right? But most guys are willing to work it out. You know how damaging it is for a guy to be divorced? You know how detrimental it is? To his livelihood, to his family, to his psychology? Fortunately, some guys will make it out alive. They know how to handle it. But most of the guys out there, they can't handle it. They off themselves. They delete themselves because they can't handle it. It's a psychological anguish that they're going through. Some guys out there can't understand that why they aren't getting any girls, too. And then they off themselves as mentally weak. Right? Because they live in this fantasy world. When you live in a fantasy world, you're a weak person. You don't know how to handle reality. You don't know how to grasp the concept of reality. How a relationship relationship works. I'm not saying I'm a dating guru. I'm not giving dating advice. I'm not the best dating expert. I'm not dating expert at all. I'm not giving no advice. I'm not saying I'm alpha or anything like that. Right? What I'm saying that people need to grasp a concept of reality. Need to make it work somehow. Understand what you're saying. The last resort is to do is divorce. That's it. That's the last option. But somehow make it work, right? Somehow make it work. And you have to make compromises. Not only that, you have to reciprocate one another. Not only that, sometime to appease the man, you have to give something up. Give pleasure to man somehow, right? For the ladies, right? Or else it's going to lead to infidelity. It's going to lead to problems. It's going to lead to strife in your marriage, right? But you need to get out of this mindset of reality. I mean, fantasy. It's not a fantasy. To be in a relationship is not a fantasy. When people, because they got confused with all those TV shows, right? With all these TV shows, oh, I'm getting married, The Bachelorette, right? The Bachelorette, The Bachelor, oh, I'm getting married on this Bachelor, right? But they're not glorifying this. What happened after the marriage, right? Okay, you're married, yeah, you live in the fantasy, live happily ever after. Okay, what happened to happily ever after? What happened? They never said that. Right? People think just because you get married, you're living happily ever after. No, you have to put in work. When people get married, people usually say, okay, then what? Now they're just a person that live together now. Right? There's no spark. Right? I was told by this couple that they were together for a long time, and they were giving advice. Well, how do you stay together for so long, right? And the one guy and both couple were saying, well, you got to pleasure each other, right? Like the guys have to do his part, pleasuring the women. The woman had to do her part, pleasuring the guy. They were married 40 years, right? They're still active, sexually active, and they're still married. You know, I'm not saying this is all cases, but this is one example I learned. You have to somehow compromise with each other. If guys, you have to pleasure the man, and the man got to pleasure the woman as well. Make something happen spark something in your relationship, right? But this is what I'm getting from people. I'm not giving advice here, right? I'm giving stories. What I'm absorbing from people, from couples, from all my life I've been living by experiences, by giving their experiences, stories, anecdotal evidence, right? And I'm giving that to you. I'm channeling it to you. And you gotta understand that this is not a fantasy. This is not TV shows, right? It's hard to be married to each other. And in a relationship, somehow you need to give up something to gain a long relationship. Sometimes you need to be mature. You need to grow up, right? Just because a girl don't want you, you shouldn't be so depressed that you want to off yourself. Just because a guy don't want you, you don't be so depressed that you want to off yourself. You gotta have the drive, and you gotta be committed, right? Most of these divorces shouldn't be even happening, and most of these marriages shouldn't be even happening. Most of these marriages is drive by lust, right? Most of these marriages are drive by lust. And people don't understand that. They married just because they're in love with the appearance of the figure of the person. And then when they realize the person isn't what they seem when they start living with each other, then they build this anguish among each other, then they lead to a divorce. All right? This perception of marriage on TV show is a fantasy. Right? What you see on TV is not the reality of how relationships should work. It's a false reality. You need to get out of this false reality of how the media portrayed relationship. And stop living this fantasy. If you don't know how to distinguish fantasy from reality, you are psychotic as any of those people out there who identify themselves as, whatever they want to identify themselves as. You're as crazy as them. Because you're not grounded to earth. You're not grounded to real life. You're not grounded to reality. Then when you get older, you build up this resentment. You build up this resentment for each sex, saying all these stuff, that. Then you'll be single forever. You can't find a mate. There's no such thing of a perfect person. There's no such thing of Mr. Right or Mrs. Right. There's no such thing. Like God said, you gotta be fruitful and multiply, right? That's reality. Be fruitful and multiply. You can't multiply if you think yourself as another person, as another gender. You can't multiply like that. That's basically depopulations, right? And you can't multiply if you hate each other. If you hate each sex, you can't multiply with that. And you can only be fruitful if you're at a young age. Getting married young and starting a family young. That's when your most fertile time. Right? But no, people like to live in this fantasy, this reality that you can hold back on your life, right? Hold back on your relationship to pursue a career that is not what benefiting you as a person. People who work all these 6-figure jobs, does that mean they're happy? They're happy? I know miserable people that make 6 figures and they're miserable. Right? I'm not the only one. I know many people knows that too. They're not willing to admit it. Right? You make all that money, but are you happy? Right? I can work all the slummiest job, but I just want my happy. I can work a crappy job as long as I'm happy about it and it pays my bills. I'm fine. All right. But people need to ground it to reality, and that's what I want to. That's the point of this video. Grounded to reality will save you all the heartache. Stop living in a fantasy. It's not a fantasy. This is real world. This is real life. It's dangerous. Real world, real life is very dangerous. If you don't take the right approach, get the right direction, you're gonna be lost in this planet. Right? Unfortunately, a lot of people are lost right now. They need God. God provide them the direction, the way. Why do you think they call him the waymaker? The light at the end of the tunnel. Give you directions. Right? What do light at the end of the tunnel do? It provides you direction of where to go. It's all metaphors. It's all parables and riddles, right? That's what it is. But at the end of the day, stop living fantasy and live in reality. This fantasy stuff is just detrimental to your psychology. On that note, guys, let me know what you think. Do you agree or disagree? Leave a comment below, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll come back later. Peace.